quickly able to mobilize, and a real re-examination of what's going on in the world and their role in it. Our re-emphasis on the Monroe Doctrine, particularly the activist part of the Monroe Doctrine, saying that we should be involved in Latin America, and by extension the Pacific Rim, which is kind of a new addition to the story, says that we are going to emerge with a lot of interest. But it also means that we really have major military reorganization. Just as Alfred Thayer Mann had really revitalized the naval side of things, so too was another career man, this is a career Army man, who had never had an elected position in his life, but in the War Department, he ended up becoming a rising star, and ultimately, if you ever do military history, this is a name you need to know, Elihu Root. Okay? Elihu Root came in and decided, okay, we kicked ass, which was good during the Spanish-American War, but it could have gone either way, because clearly we didn't have an organized idea of what the hell we were going to do. The various different departments weren't really talking to each other. He said it's time for a review. So like an efficiency expert, he did a 2-year review of the War Department and came up with a series of recommendations. First, he said, look, what we're doing right. He said, we are teaching our boys how to kill, and they know that. They know the whole, like, grenade goes that way, pin stays here, don't fuck it up, okay? Because you can only screw that up once, right? And after that, not so good. So he said, we do that well. We do that good. But there are two problems that exist. One is with the officers. The officers in the military are kind of universally stupid, okay? They are untrained, because it's cool to train officers how to kill. It's a good skill, you know, just like clipping coupons, a good skill, okay? But not all of them are context useful. For example, if you're going to the grocery store, your license to kill is probably not going to be used, right? You know, it's not like suddenly you're in the fruit and vegetable aisle and, you know, and sorry, I didn't mean to be startled. You know, I'll pay for the rutabaga I strangled it with. You know, that was rude. I don't know how one strangles with a rutabaga. It sounded good at the time. But anyway, there it was. But the thing is, he said, officers don't need so much to know how to kill others, so that's a good skill. What do they need to know? What kinds of things do they have to have mastered?
Leadership.
Okay, leadership skills, such as knowing... What are the big things of war? The trifecta of things you need to do in order to conduct a war well.
Logistics.
Logistics and strategy. This calls for strategy, right? You know, as Bugs Bunny would say. And tactics, okay? Now, what do those three terms mean? What's the difference between strategy and tactics, for example?
Strategy is a plan, tactics, how you execute it.
Okay, yeah, strategy is the big plan as to how you do things, and tactics is when you're on the battlefield, you know, flank them from this side, get the high ground, do not park your army with its back towards a river, all the things you learned in Age of Empires and Warcraft 2, okay? You know, all the things that one must engage in, okay? But the third part, which was mentioned also, logistics. This is crucial. Logistics is getting your pieces in place at time and keeping people fed and supplied. If you look at both Napoleon and Hitler, both of whom are kind of considered important, you know, generals in history, right? Guys who did big armies. Nonetheless, they both failed in the school of logistics. When going into Russia, they overextended themselves, and it was getting the supplies that killed them. It wasn't the strategy, although one could argue the strategy was flawed. It wasn't the tactics. It was the inability to logistically supply and keep that supply chain running that caused them both to collapse into the Russian winter. And so all three are important. So he said, what we need to do is we need to train our officers in the history of warfare and how to do these big things in order to understand what the hell to do. And so as a result, he started officer training schools. The biggest one, the Army Staff College, which is out at Fort Leavenworth, was the first of these big ones. But it completely revamped officer training and re-looked at the way that we train soldiers, particularly officers. Second of all, he said, okay, so now let's get our officers trained to where they know what the hell they're doing. That would be good, okay? But there's another problem. We should not be having the Assistant Secretary of the Navy running the war, okay? This is kind of dumb. In fact, it should be nice if actually the three various groups, the National Guard, the Army, and the Navy, would talk to each other instead of acting like Moe, Larry, and Curly when it comes to figuring out battle, okay? And so he proposed this idea of what he called the General Staff, a staff of generals, which really could be admirals or whatever your title is, depending on, but he said the highest ranking people in the various different military branches to get together and coordinate the grand strategy. This will, after World War II, metamorph into what? The General Staff becomes what we know today as the Joint Chiefs of Staff, okay? And that's what we have today. So, you know, all the people, if you've ever seen a Godzilla movie, the ones that are around there that are pushing Godzilla around and saying, oh, my planes go this way, and the tanks go this way, and Mothra comes in from this side, you know? And one of them's always played by Raymond Burr, who was Perry Mason, but you don't care. Anyway, it's you haven't seen a Godzilla movie, it's classic, okay? Important stuff.
Even the remakes.
Huh?
Even the remakes.
Even the remakes can be fun. Godzilla movies are fun. They're entertaining. Brainless, but entertaining. You know, that's Godzilla versus Mothra in particular. Anything that has a giant moth is a hero. With miniature singing twins that are Japanese singers that are, it's like watching anime before anime. If you want to wonder what live action anime would look like, watch an old Godzilla film. It's woo, okay, but fun. And like anime, actually, then we dubbed it into English and screwed up the plot lines, and it's joyous. So the speed racerization effect, as we might call it. Anyway, so there was that. But there, so certainly that will be a big deal, and there's this huge legacy of the change. Obviously, it's a big deal because we get to World War I and World War II. We're still governed by the Monroe Doctrine. We don't want to get involved to the last minute, but we have the military preparedness and readiness to do so because of the legacy of imperialism. Okay, bless you. Okay, so that's imperialism. Wrap it up. Now we move to domestic politics. Okay. And I said that the big thing we're going to be talking about is this concept of progressivism, a major political philosophy. Now, nowadays, if you think political philosophy, like you think liberals, all liberals must be Democrats unless they're crazy liberals, then they're green. Okay, and same thing, all conservatives must be Republicans unless they're crazy conservatives, then they're libertarians. Okay, and now I've just pissed off the Greens and libertarians in the room. Yay! So well done. But the thing is, we assume that one philosophy belongs to a party, right? You know, to a particular party or the branch of a party. Progressivism didn't. Although the word progressivism today has become conflated with the word liberal, the word progressivism in the 1900s meant something entirely different. Some of the aspects of progressivism today would be considered liberal. Some of the aspects of progressivism today would be considered part of the religious right. And so as a result, it's not really what most people would want to bundle it as. So what was progressivism? Because progressivism was something that was both in the Democratic and Republican parties. In fact, on the national stage, it was first a Republican, Teddy Roosevelt, who brought it to the stage. It will eventually become more associated with the Democratic Party, but it is something that was in both parties. It was a major political philosophy that was very strong from around the 1900s through the 1940s as its main heyday. Okay, so what was progressivism? Well, what we could say about progressives, they all agreed on. One, they were hugely pro-American. They said, "Yay, America! Go Team America!" With or without the marionettes. Okay, they were all sure that we were very strong in these universe. We had done so well with industrialism. We were thumbs up. We were all good in that sort of regards. Second of all, they said, as good as America was, and with all the resources we had, still there was room for improvement. Okay. Like all humans, we had problems. We had some poverty. We had health issues. Capitalism had some hiccups or burps, you know, that needed to be worked out of the system. These all could be fixed in some way. And this is the thing that's so important. They not only say that there's problems, but they say these problems are solvable. They are fixable. They believe in efficiency, in organization, indeed in the idea of almost near perfection. That humans, it's that can-do attitude. Yes, if you hear today, like somebody might say, "Oh, we will always have poverty. We can't really fix that. You know, we'll always have crime." A progressive from 1900 would say, "No, we can fix it. We can change it. We can alter it." What makes a progressive, though, is this third component. It's not just that they say America's got all these resources and they can fix the problems that we had. But third, they said, there is a positive role for government in order to help solve these issues. That there's a positive role for government to deal with the social, economic, or political mishaps that exist in American life. And this belief in the positive role of government is what sort of removes the progressive